Hello, welcome to the Booth Global Sports Podcast, episode 2. Yes, this is our second podcast. As you can see, we're trying to create a little bit more ambiance as opposed to the first podcast. My name is Craig Booth, managing partner of Booth Global Sports. I welcome you to our podcast. I welcome you to hear more about what's going on with the company. Very exciting times, as I've told you before. And we're looking forward to a great beginning for the expansion of our services and offerings. So welcome to Booth Global Sports Podcast. This is a weekly podcast which will be distributed every Tuesday. And then as we go along, we'll have this more for mass distribution, but we have selected distribution for the podcast as we speak. We're working on sort of the technical aspects of getting it published through iTunes and Google Play and other things of that nature. So more to come on that as we grow the podcast, as we grow the audience, as we grow the consistency and how we present this information. So let me tell you what's going on with Booth Global Sports, give you some quick updates. If you check our website, www.boothglobalsportsllc.com, and if you go to our camp section, we have expanded information about our upcoming camps. So in October, we'll be featuring 3 specialty camps in the Mid-Atlantic. The first one will be October 6th. That will be Point Guard Academy. As you may or may not know, I am an esteemed point guard, been a point guard all my life. I've been fortunate and blessed enough to be able to play the point guard position, to be able to be successful at the position. So I'm going to be sharing some knowledge with a couple of my other coaches and buddies that have come along, and we're going to break down the point guard position. We're going to get into the 6 disciplines of playing the point. There'll be stations, skills, and drills. There'll be a lot of competitive stuff, but also stuff to understand the mindset, the leadership needed to be an effective point guard. This camp is open for 7th graders through 12th graders. So we need you to register. It's on a Sunday, so it should not interfere with any of your weekend play or your high school activities. It's a Sunday. It's at Riverbend High School in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Open to all in the Mid-Atlantic to come down. And we have limited space, so you need to register now. So the links are up. You can register and get started. The week after, we got a second camp, which will be called the 24/7 Shooting Camp. And again, I consider myself somewhat of a shot doctor. I do focus on shot improvement, shot correction. This camp will focus on shooting entirely. The entire camp will be focused on releasing the ball quickly, shooting on the move, shooting behind screens, shooting off of screens, catch and shooting, quick release as stated before, and accuracy, and finding really your sweet spots, and also understanding the belief system as it relates to shooting. So that's another exciting camp as you head into your winter basketball season or fall winter basketball seasons. You're going to need to learn how to get that ball up and shoot and be an effective shooter. So that's another great camp on Sundays, on a Sunday at Riverbend, and I'll be October 13th, and more information is on the website. And then we'll have our third camp, which is the preseason camp, which is a camp getting people prepared for tryouts as well as prepared for their season. This is a good camp where you do both lecture, clinics, and learning, but then also some drills that you should be doing. And then it also focuses on how do you maintain consistency throughout the season and then get ready for your postseason, which will be your AAU season. So this is exciting as well, and I encourage all high schoolers to attend both the shooting camp and the preseason camps. Those camps are high school only for boys and girls. The point guard camp is boys and girls, but 7th grade to 12th grade. So we'll break it up based on age group. So that's the exciting things that's coming there. Of course, we've been promoting the Go Pro Career Camp, and we've been actually speaking to universities and colleges along the Eastern Seaboard about bringing that camp to campus. So more information on that is on the website. And we'll be speaking again to university athletic departments to be able to come in and give your student athletes an opportunity to get ready for the next step or the next level, which is a professional career. And that is a very informative camp. It starts out with interviewing, critique or interviewing, filming your interview, Then it goes into a lecture about what we saw and what you could do to improve, and some tidbits and little tricks of the trade. And then there's a networking, because I do bring professionals to that camp. So there'll be people that actually work in careers that you may have an interest in meeting. So even if this doesn't go directly to your college coach or your athletic director, and you're a student athlete in college and you're a junior and senior, especially a junior and senior, I encourage you to take this information and go out and push it to your athletic department and say, hey, we need to have them on campus. We need this. So look into that. So those are the three major updates that's going on in the Booth Global space. Of course, we have so many more things that's going on just as well. Of course, our consulting services is year-round, and we are now starting to post our event schedule for 2020. So the competitive schedule, as we still negotiate some other venues, because we want to get bigger and better in regards to our event offerings. Now, let's get into the deep stuff, which is the BGS Analytics. That's the new division. That is our process of modeling athlete performance and tying it to scouting. So yes, scouting services, you see them all over. They come in many different forms. You have scouting services that provide generic data through the community, through web portals, which people subscribe to. You have stuff like Go Prep, Preps Hoops, or you have Go Preps, or you have Max Preps. You have different things like that that are out there that you can go and get an opportunity to get some information on sort of the high profile players, or the players that have been fortunate enough to be ranked. I find it odd, in my 17 years of coaching AAU at the high level, I had not one player that was ranked on some of these websites. However, in the state of Virginia, and however, I placed over 50 athletes into Division I programs. So it's not saying that those are ineffective. It's just like whoever is in front of them, whoever they see, are given an opportunity to get ranked and be seen. But you have so many programs that don't go through those circuits or play in their camps, so those athletes don't get the ranking. What we're doing in our scouting division, which is part of analytics, is we're looking at every player. So we're going to make the attempt, as we have done, to populate a database of every athlete that's competing at the high school AAU level from 9th grade through 12th grade. So that's class of 2022, 21, and 20. Those athletes will get an opportunity to get into our database. We're going to have a mechanism by which their high school coaches, as well as their AAU coaches, can provide their assessment of their player performance. But then we're also going to be able to go out through our scouts and watch young people play. We'll watch them play in high school games, fall league games. We'll watch them play in practice. And we'll continually assess and hit tournaments and leagues and everything we could hit from Richmond to Baltimore. That's our market. And we're going to provide data analysis on all of those players. So how are we going to be different? Now, typically, what you see in a scout is what we would call qualitative data. So it's a subjective feel on whether young man or young woman could play at a certain level. Oftentimes, that indicator is based on the reaction of college coaches who are showing interest. So if a college coach shows interest, such as a major college is interested in player X immediately goes to the front of their scouting service as if they ranked that player there. The player was recruited heavily, and the college coaches have many different means by which they get information on players. And then all of a sudden the scouting services, to kind of show that their credibility, they put all the top 5, top 10 players in the state, which everybody would say, yes, we would agree, or possibly not agree. At the end of the day, what it does is it doesn't necessarily mean they went and actually recruited. It's sort of a bandwagon thing. If you go to all of these scouting services, you see the same players ranked. So that's fine. However, what about the 90% of players or more that are out there that can contribute to the plethora of colleges, D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, that are interested in recruiting these players. Now, they have their mechanisms by which they go and get data on players, recruitable players. So what we wanted to do was, one, give each player who has an aspiration and dream to play at the college level an opportunity to get into our database. Now, once they're in our database, and it doesn't mean they have to pay to get in our database, we just provide mechanisms to retrieve the data we need so that we could then have them in our database. And once they're in our database, then we will go through the analytics. The analytics process is, again, receiving some subjective data and assessment from coaches. And then after we receive that data, we will compare that data to when we actually go out and we scout the kids. And so when we scout the kids, we have attributes, and we scout them at the, let me just back up, we scout them at the performance level. So we look at their position, point guard, guard, forward, and post. And based on those four positions, whatever category they fall into, then we immediately go into what we call a attribute model, which is ranked based on 6 attributes per position. Those attributes are scored and ranked. And so, for example, if you're a point guard, we're looking at your playmaking ability. We're looking at your ability to penetrate, your ability to pass, your ability to play against pressure, your ability to have a strong vision or premonition. We look at those things, and those things are ranked. And based on those ranking, you get a median score of the 6 attributes that says, okay, that score is a number, and then that number is then translated to a level, D1, D2, D3, low, mid, major D1, etc. And then based on that level, there is that ranking, which is your sort of qualitative ranking. And we take the qualitative measurements, such as how many assists, how many turnovers, how many touches, how many penetrations. Those are quantitative data points. And then we take the subjective qualitative data points, such as coachability, discipline, competitiveness, hardworking, etc. Combine all that data. So you got qualitative data, quantitative data, scoring that's modeled, so it's consistently modeled across all players. And then the output is a ranking. And that's how we rank our players, not top 5 in Virginia, not top 10 point guards, not top 10 shooting guards, not top 10 post players. We rank our players based on that model and our, of course, 30 plus years experience of coaching basketball at every level, from pro to college to high school. And those attributes in a data model and the assessments qualitatively from coaches as well as us comes up with a really good profile on that player. And then those subscribers, which would be college coaches for the most part, will be able to get a more detailed analysis of the player based on our analytics. And then that is leveraged for when they go out and put eyes on the player and they look at the player. And so this gives them some good information. And the reason why we've taken that approach is because, one, we're not sure if anybody else is doing it to that level. 2, the NCAA rules have changed, so they're unable to go out and see as many players as frequently as they've done in the past. So we're kind of closing the gap. We're actually their eyes and ears. We're going out, but we're not going out with a subjective, oh, he could shoot, he could play at your level. No, we're going to put them through our model. Now, what we're going to do over the course of years is collect all this data. We'll tweak the rankings based on how the data is sort of compiled and the results. And we'll also then be able to come up with a consistent scoring that says, hey, a point guard at a Division I level can do all these things based on these variables and these attributes. And so that'll be a consistent model across the board that we feel that other schools and coaches and other teams could use, but also it could benefit a player. So if I'm a player, I'm a sophomore, I'm a junior, got another year or two of high school, and I get this type of data, and I need to improve in certain aspects of the attributes. Say it's penetration, and I don't penetrate enough in a game. I've been assessed 2 or 3 times, and penetration is not my big thing. But if I increase my ability to penetrate, then I can get a higher ranking. Then that will show a college coach that I'm at a higher ranking. But at the end of the day, guess what? I might can get recruited at a higher level. Those are things that are helpful to players. So we're going to have the subscription model on our website in the coming weeks, maybe sooner, where you can subscribe. The first report will be out in December. It's called the Mid-Atlantic Report. It'll come out in December. And that report is an introduction to the Mid-Atlantic players that we have collected in our database. And so the preseason report really doesn't have a lot of the assessments other than just some information that is needed, like roster information, players' height, weights, and email addresses, things that coaches are looking for. It'll have a lot of assessment data from interviews and conversations with coaches and practices we've attended in fall leagues. So we'll have a lot of reporting data in that respect. And the modeling data will continue throughout the winter. So when you get to the second report, which will be post-high school season, then that gets really deep because we've had numerous opportunities to run players through the different models. And so that is exciting. So the analytics piece is really taking off and is really an exciting time. Big data is big. They use it at the professional level and at the college level. And why not at the high school level? These kids need a fair assessment, a consistent assessment. They need to make sure they're hitting the attributes that these coaches are looking for. And so we're trying to provide that data analysis so that they could improve their games. They could develop training plans with their trainers. You know, I'm big on trainers just got you doing things, but they're not trying to get a certain result in a certain specific area. So that's something that could be used by the players, this data. And then lastly, all of the camps that we do, whether it's point guard camps, shooting camps, level up camps, are you ready camps, all these camps that we do within the Booth Global Sports suite of camps, those analytics are also applied. So you're getting that analytical assessment at our camp. So imagine you don't have to wait for us to come to your high school game or see you on the AAU circuit. You come to our camps, we're analyzing you and you're getting more assessments. The more assessments you get as a player, the better off you are to get recruited and also to have data to improve. So I encourage players in the Mid-Atlantic to come to our camps. Affordable, but there are opportunities to just get continually assessed, and that assessment can be provided along the way. So that's a whole mouthful of what we're doing. But the uniqueness, again, of data analytics is that we are providing assessment models that are consistently done across all players, and we have a consistent ranking system. Beautiful. We are traditional scouts, so that means we're in gyms and we're looking at players. Right now, we're in the data collection process, and we have a plethora of data, and we'll continue to meet with coaches as they update their high school rosters and increase our data load so that we could have accurate, credible data on each roster in the Mid-Atlantic. And then the modeling is the great part, and that part is really good. And we're willing to meet with college coaches or even high school coaches to talk about sort of how we're assessing players so they can understand. And then that comparative analysis over time will basically give us an opportunity to set a level playing field for how players are evaluated and take out a lot of the subjectivity. Not all of it, because you have to have subjectivity, but it'll take out a lot of the subjectivity. So again, this is Craig Booth, Managing Partner, episode 2 of the Booth Global Sports Podcast. I thank you for listening, and you can reach us at info@boothglobalsports.com. You can check our website out for all the updates and the links to register for camps and other things, www.boothglobalsportsllc.com. And you can also email me directly, Craig Booth at boothglobalsportsllc.com, if you want to schedule a meeting or have some conversations of doing business with the company. So I look forward to speaking to you. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you next week on the podcast.